So, hi everyone, and welcome back to our weekly live Fuel Arts and Tech webinar broadcast series. Yeah, today we are broadcasting from quite an unusual place because 30 minutes ago the electricity was shut down in my apartment in our office here in Miami. So we had to move to the Botanic Garden of Miami Beach. So this is our new home for today's webinar. Um, so yeah, but the electricity in Dubai seems to be okay. So I'm happy to welcome our co-host Sonia Stubblebine. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Dennis. Very exciting. I think it's actually pretty beautiful what you have over there.
Yeah, let's see how the sun moves, and well, it's you never know, as well as you never know the cryptocurrency rates and what's going on in the our tech environment. So, as you know, our spring 2023 webinars are focused on the diversity of the Tezos ecosystem, which is as green and as powerful as the background behind me. So these webinars introduce you to the managers, founders, artists, and technical experts working to develop the number one blockchain for the arts, which is Tezos. So and as you know, in the same weeks, we are continuing working with the startups of the first batch of the Fuel Arts and Test Accelerator. But of course, yes, and here you can see the 10 startups who are now being accelerated by Fuel Arts and Tezos with the help of both Fuel Arts and Tezos mentors. So we are again welcoming you to the demo day, which will happen on the 27th of July, hopefully with good Wi-Fi and electricity as well. So uh, I'm happy to tell you about the partners of the accelerator. So we have a lot of them, and Amadeo Global, a New York-based investment firm focused on public and private companies. Unstoppable Domain, our infrastructural partner of the batch, the Web3 domain provider. So they offer NFT domains that give people full ownership and control of their digital identity. Educate Me, a unique Ukrainian platform that gathers live sessions, lessons, content, and all assignments in a single place. So everyone, all the batch members and tutors are excited of this platform. Tezos Art Management, our uh, marketing and PR partners, a team of producers, strategists managing international art projects and developing PR services. Then we have a bunch of our organizational and tech partners, namely Trilly Tech, the company dedicated to developing and elevating new ideas and innovation built on the Tezos ecosystem. Nomadic Labs, the tech partner of the batch, one of the largest research and development centers within the Tezos ecosystem. Radio Button, our partner from Germany, they are successfully developing the most ambitious and scalable projects in the sphere of IT and Web3. So also Nan is a fun, simple, and secure way to create a Tezos wallet. And our one of our media partners, Metaverse Post, they are supplying the market with the hottest Web3 news. The next companies are represented by the mentors of the Fuel Arts and Tezos Accelerator. So Blockchain Art, represented by Christina Steinbrecher Fund, a trustworthy network for the art world where one can discover, buy, and sell digital artworks online. Bull Perks, a decentralized VC and multi-chain launchpad focused on gamify. Enjoy the orchids. So represented by Constantin Kogan, ArtPay from France, that provide elegant financial and technology tools for the global art market, represented by Natasha Rotman Letourneur, and Artcryption, represented by Vanda Nataxali, one of the top art lawyers in the sphere of digital IP. Platform to sell, protect, and share creative assets and IP online. And also, please don't hesitate visiting our website and downloading our Fuel Arts and Tech Startups report, which was published yesterday. So the day before yesterday. Sorry, yeah, we're just lost in time. So, but also here you can see the QR code, so those who watch our webinars can download it directly if you haven't done that before. So yes, let's let's jump to the topic of our today's meeting. I apologize for our guest for such a big welcome speech. So today we'll speak about museums in the Web3 industry, in the Web3 times. So I'm happy to welcome the person whom I personally know for more than 10 years, since childhood. I can say Diane Drubay, who has been working towards the transformation of museums in the arts internationally since 2007. So she's the founder of VR Museums, a community-powered think tank of the future of museums that are good for people and the planet. Also, Diane is a visual artist, nudging for nature awareness and better futures. And Diane is the head of arts and culture at TZ Connect, the Tezos hub in Berlin, where she facilitates collaboration and leads strategy around Web3 future prototyping across arts and culture, including the program dedicated to museums, WAC-Lab. Hi, Diane. Thank
Hi.
you. Thank you. It was our pleasure. It was our dream to having you here, and thank you for finding your time.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Sonia. Super happy to be here. And indeed, it's been a long time that we know each other.
Right. It was in 2010, my first intrusion into the art market and communication, the museum conference, one of the best conferences I've ever been at. And you've been co-organizing that conference. So I'm, since that, I'm tracking your career and your significant developments. So my question to you is, my first question to you is, how did you come to the Web3 space from the museum-oriented area?
Well, I would say that this actually came in two different phases. One was in 2018, 2019, when I started to be curious about blockchain and trying to see how this could be used, how this new technology could be used by museums. So I started to organize different kind of panel discussions and meetups and workshops around the topic, just basically trying to understand if there is something to be done or if it's actually too early. So we were trying to list different applications, and we actually listed many of them that are currently in use, but this was years ago, when the blockchain industry and the blockchain world was not really fitting, I think, in terms of values. Like very fast, we actually saw that these two words, the museum world and the crypto world, were actually not looking for the same thing. And so, at the end of the day, it was like we actually faced something like a cultural clash. So in 2019, we decided to drop blockchain, wait for it to mature or to grow, to develop, and then in 2021, actually, more value-driven and impact-driven initiatives came in this Web3 space, in this blockchain space, and then museums became, more attracted to this new community and new development. However, I started 2018 being curious and then kind of drop. But then as an artist, I actually started to meet on Hiketnung, this amazing art-driven platform on Tezos in March 2021. And that's how I really, really became a huge fan of the Tezos ecosystem and the Tezos community. I started to mint maybe way too much at one point as well, but it's actually so that we could really find an amazing place to get inspired and to see new governance model and new social models thanks to this decentralization. And I could actually see my work as as we are museums, and my work as an artist being finally at home in this new Web3 space. That's how things started again, I would say, in 2021.
Thank you. And could you also tell us more about your role within the Tezos ecosystem? So what are your activities and how do you participate?
Yeah, so in November 2021, I started to work for TZ Connect, which is Tezos hub in Berlin, working directly for the Tezos Foundation. And my role at this time was basically to manage, to advise everything which was art and culture related, because it was the beginning. And like not so many art and culture experts were actually working at the Tezos Foundation or for different Tezos entities. So it became huge very, very fast. And then now the team grew up quite a lot. But my role today is really to focus on cultural institutions and artists and help them and guide them in their adoption of the Tezos technologies and Tezos tooling. But it's also about training, onboarding, and prototyping programs to help art and culture institutions and artists navigate these new developments. So it's a lot about listening and seeing how we can grow together. It's really about empowering as well, museums and artists with these new tools, and creating beautiful partnership or collaborations or programs such as WAC.
Absolutely. It seems like it's also a lot about education, right? So you're probably telling a lot to these institutions who are probably not that Web3 driven or adopted, to say so.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the first thing that I've been actually working on was a huge resource pack, because basically I realized that I was always saying the same thing, answering same questions or sharing the same links. So resources are key and are really, really precious in this ecosystem and in this new space. It is really difficult to get neutral perspective and neutral knowledge on things, and a complete knowledge as well. So working on good resources, inspired resources, and neutral resources was definitely my first big mission. And then it turned into this big training program that we are developing for museums, because much more than training, it's also networking. It's also creating this sense of togetherness and networking, where museum professionals could actually share really freely about the different news or different topics about Web3 and museums.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. So you've started telling about us about the VR museums, about its mission, but could you please elaborate more about about the history of the company, and what vision do you have for it, maybe in further development? Maybe starting from the name, because from what I remember in the beginning of 2010s, the museum community, one of the most powerful communities, they gifted the art world a bunch of slogans like "Curator is you," "Museum is a content provider," and I mean the best innovations, they came to the art world from museums. The first art app at Van Gogh Museum, and so on. So, starting from the museum, what do you mean saying we are museums? Who we are?
Very good question. So it was the goal of this name was really to empower museum professionals and people working for museums. So showing them that they can change, they can move the needle, they can, by being together and feeling empowered, they can actually move this sector towards something different. Just guiding this sector towards evolution. we know that it's not an easy sector to move and to change and to transform, but it's the people working in and for museums who could actually really do it. So it was also giving a sense of togetherness, and this is something that I feel also in the Web3 space. It's about creating moments where people are together and they can learn together, and then they feel powerful enough to actually get inspired by each other and change some things within their own institutions. So We Are Museums actually started in Lithuania, in Vilnius, in 2013, while we actually saw a beautiful source of emerging ideas and creativity. And the goal was really to mix this new generation of artists and creatives with museum professionals coming from Lithuania, but also coming from the Baltics, and then coming from, it was really an international conference. So it was 3 days of conferences, which was actually much more like a huge gathering of museum change makers. And the goal was really to find emerging new models of what could be a museum, starting with a we, and then finding new definitions, because it was also at this time where ICOM was struggling, trying to find a new definition, and actually they're still kind of struggling and changing it every few years. But it was really about that. And then year after year, we created this conference in different places, always places where we could find new models of what is a museum. What is a museum for your community? What is a museum for your district? What is a museum for your association, or for your school, or for your garden? Just trying to understand, what is the definition of a museum and how it could actually have an impact on the future. And then step by step, this became this huge community of museum change makers feeling powerful enough to change things within their institution. So it became in 2019, no, when was it? The pandemic, 2020. It became also an online community. So now it's 2,000 people, 2,000 museum professionals being online. And for 2 years, we organized weekly meetups and discussions, support groups as well. It was really about having this sense of community. And something which is also quite important to understand is that in 2013, We Are Museums was really, the goal of We Are Museums was really to guide museums through digital transformation, because it was all about that. Then around 2015, it was more about social impact and how museums could actually have a role to play in a more equitable and diverse future. In 2019, it was all about the environmental impact. So it was all about how you can create some programs and change the museum within. So it is more more sustainable and could care more for the planet. And then in 2021, all about Web3 and all about blockchain. So always, it's different programs which are actually guiding museums through change. And sometimes it's technology, sometimes it's social, sometimes it's the environment. It depends, but it's always about change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We also want to ask you about WAC-Lab. What is its mission? Who does it work for? And who's actually benefiting from this lab? Could you tell us more about it?
Yeah, sure. So as I just described, we have different labs, different programs. The one about the environment was called Museums Facing Extinction. And this actually was led for 3 years by different European institutions and museums. WAC is our new program, new lab of innovation called Web3 for the Art and Culture. It actually started in 2021 in December during Art Basel Miami. And it is a long program, multi-month program, where we have different phases. The first one is actually a weekly discussion. So since December 21, we meet every Wednesday, more or less, with museum professionals, and we talk about the latest news in the blockchain and Web3 space. And then we have the WAC Fellowship, which is a training and mentoring program of 12 weeks for 12 museums and cultural institutions. And then we have the WAC Factory, which is a prototyping program. And the goal of this all is actually to identify new use case of how museums and cultural institutions can use blockchain technologies to serve their needs, and why and to finish, this is actually powered by Tezos and the Tezos Foundation, because it is this amazing playground where you can identify new use cases, new ways to really use the Tezos technology for museums. And you really need these different phases to achieve that. It is not just about, having a meeting and then duplicating something that you've seen somewhere else. Like, innovation takes time and takes training and takes trust as well. So you need to create a safe space where museum professionals could actually learn from each other and get inspired to actually think about the technology differently and see how they can apply it to them institutions differently. So to answer your question, WAC, Web3 for the Art and Culture, is co-organized by We Are Museums and TZ Connect, powered by the Tezos Foundation and in collaboration with Blockchain Art Directory and Fanny Lacoube.
Thank you. Thank you for explaining in such a clear way. Also, what you were just saying, that you've been running it since like December 2021. What are the things that you noticed that museums are finding, challenging, how to adopt these new technologies? What maybe, do you have any takeaways from this, well, now almost a year and a half of actually doing this lab?
I would say that we really saw the participants actually changing, and also changing, following the news and following different projects. Like, at first, the discussion was mostly around some issues with the perception of blockchain and the perception of NFTs. Huge issue around the trust, like, why are we even doing that? Who is behind? Is it actually lasting? Is it actually fitting the values and the ambition of a museum? So it was really about the trust. Then it became more about, and then also because we saw a lot of museums doing things which were not really fitting, museums' missions, I would say. And then it was really about daring to experiment. And we've seen a few museums really doing it last year, experimenting, trying new things and seeing how it works. But I think that the hardest thing for museums when you talk about Web3, of course, there is a question of interoperability. There is a question of durability of the technology. Was the different players, the respect of royalties, some issues with storing assets, etc., and of course regulations. But I think the main complexity that they are facing is that in this new space, you need to experiment. You need to actually go in this new playground and do things. And this could be actually really frightening and dangerous for museums, because they are playing with their brands, they are playing with their community. Having this, experimental and laboratory mindset is really difficult for most of them. So we were lucky enough last year to be able to work with a really agile institution, which is called Light Art Space, LAS Foundation, based in Berlin. And we actually implemented live meeting in collaboration with the artist Yan Cheng. And during the period of the exhibition, so it was a 2-month exhibition, we had 4,500 NFTs being minted, just like a souvenir, but much more than a souvenir. It was fully integrated into the conceptual, the artistic concept of the artist and the scenography and the visitor journey of the exhibition. So the LAS, the team, and especially Christina Leopold, they dare. They were actually bold enough to say, okay, let's do it. We have no clue where it's going. No one did that before, but let's do it. And I think this is definitely the main issue and the main blockade for museums. Like, saying that they can embrace experimentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, from your replies, I mean, both us and the audience feels that you are not only deeply engaged in the museum sphere, but also deeply care about what's going on with the museums and with their future. Um, I'd like to move a bit back to your VAC fellowship, because several months ago you invited me to one of your sessions with a short talk, and I was really impressed with the level of the community engagement there, with the level of the information that the entrepreneurs, museums, startups receive at your fellowship. So I really loved your work. So could you please tell us more about the current cohort of the WAC fellowship, and who are the fellows? Like, what are they currently working on, and maybe what upcoming project in WAC-Lab would you like to highlight?
Sure.
And then we'll get back to the future of museums in Web3. I promise.
Well, I think it's quite connected actually, because it's really a laboratory for the future of museums with Web3. So I think I really like what you said about your feeling and your experience when you actually join the WAC Weekly, our weekly discussion. And I think this environment and this atmosphere and what you can feel when you enter the space is trust. It's really a safe space. It's because these people are actually meeting on a weekly basis. Like, it's open to everyone. Everyone can join, and I'm actually inviting the startups part of the accelerator to join, because it's super interesting. You really get to talk directly with museum professionals thinking about these Web3 challenges on a daily basis, and the conversation is really open and honest as well, which is quite difficult to get in this Web3 space. So, you know, like, people, they will dare saying what they think about different projects or about different chains or whatsoever. So it's quite frank, which is very precious. But to go back on the WAC fellowship, so we have 12 institutions, well, actually 11 now. One of them had to drop because of different reasons. But these fellowships, so it's actually the second cohort. We've done the first season last year, and Light Art Space Foundation was part of it. But during this second season, we have mostly museums coming from, or cultural institutions coming from Europe, but also Australia and Sri Lanka. Strangely, we have no one from South America or North America this time. But we have the ACME, the Australian Centre for the Moving Image. We have the Belvedere Museum in Vienna. We have the French Ministry of Culture, the Haus der Kunst in Munich, in Germany, the HEC in Switzerland, Institute for Sound and Music in Berlin, the Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art in Sri Lanka, the Musée d'Orsay. We have the National Taras Shevchenko Museum in Ukraine, the Royal College of Art, and then the Wukuma Kondi Foundation in the Netherlands. So what I love with this cohort is that it's really diverse in terms of type of museum. You know, sometimes some of them are cultural institutions, some of them are more about education, some are more about cultural preservation, some have really old collections, some are all about digital art collections, and some don't have collections. So it's very interesting to see where each of them are actually going. And then in terms of projects, we actually, so it is an ongoing, so we are currently actually running the program. So the fellows are changing their ideas of what they want to do during the WAC Factory. And it's been now the week number 7, and we have 12. But I can tell you today what people are working on. So Some of them are working on creating a DAO. So a DAO, so the curation could be the curation of one space, or an online collection or online exhibition could be made in collaboration with a community directly, or with the visitors. We have another a team working on an NFT drop with a generative AI artist. We have an NFT shop as well, so it's not an NFT market, but it's using a smart contract from another marketplace, but then having the nice Web2 interface respecting the visual identity of the museum. And this institution will actually commission some artists to sell the NFTs in this NFT shop, and part of the sales will actually benefit the DAO, etc. We have also some institutions working on live minting, so something similar to what we did with LAS and Yancheng last year. We have institutions working on proof of participation, proof of learning, proof of attendance, and some NFT giveaways as well. We have also institutions working on tokenizing their collections to preserve the culture. We have also some institutions working on security and actually tokenizing in order to follow in order to secure the collection. And what else? Oh yeah, and then we have one team working more towards a research paper about perpetual royalties. So there is this big question about royalties in this Web3 space, while royalties are actually depending on the marketplace, and they are not attached directly to the blockchain, meaning that if the marketplace such as OpenSea decides to stop giving the royalties in the secondary market to artists, they can do it. And this is not normal at all. So it's actually the French Ministry of Culture working towards royalty interoperability and perpetuity. So, and yeah, I think that's it. I hope it was inspiring enough.
Yes, more than inspiring. Thank you.
Yes, and as Dennis previously said, I would love to come again back to museums in Web3. So how do you read the situation in the past few years when it comes to museums going towards Web3?
Well, I think it's what I just said. I see a lot of, well, it depends on the museum, and it depends on their mission and what they want to do. Of course, like the adoption of blockchain technology should never be forced, but it should actually serve as a better solution for a need that they already have. So some museums will actually go towards commissioning some new artworks and then divide the sales so they can support a cause, or they can support another project. Some museums will go more towards community building and community engagement and community participation through different kind of membership programs, token based or token gated membership programs. Some other museums will go towards more experimentation with the blockchain itself, and also find a way to register the museum collection on the blockchain. Some museums are also thinking about creating DAOs with different museums, to solve different kind of issues from the industry. I'm not so sure I'm answering your question right, to be honest, Sonia.
Just giving the tendencies and the opportunities that they can find. But we have a question from Shamil. So what is the main motivation for museums to go towards Web3? Is there an interest in the meta universes?
Yeah, and Diane, you've probably, for sure you've replied to the first part of this question, but I believe Shamil is still interested in the second part, like, is there any interest in the meta universes?
Well, to be fully honest, we are not so much talking about virtual exhibitions and the metaverse during this fellowship. I don't know exactly why, but I think this is some fellows and some museums were definitely thinking about it like a few weeks ago, thinking that they could actually reach out to new audiences thanks to these virtual worlds and metaverses, thinking that they could also exhibit, it's like this extra room that you can get, so they can exhibit even more, they can showcase their collection even more. But then very quickly they kind of dropped the idea and wanted to do something which was actually solving one of their current issue. So it was more, it's, as I said before, it is more about finding the solution, the technological solution that you need, and not thinking about a new need or new thing to do. Like, we all know that museums are constantly overloaded, and they already have so many different hats to wear. And yeah, I actually think they don't see the metaverse industry as mature enough to actually really experiment and dedicate a full team, because working in the metaverse is also quite costly in terms of knowledge. Of course, you can work with an external provider right away, but you still need to change and shift the way you think about curation, about scenography, about your curatorial statement, even about who you will actually invite, if I'm just talking about an exhibition. What else? I remember also some museums got very interested in the possibility of selling artworks directly during the visit of the virtual exhibition. So this is also totally possible. You can connect your wallet in some virtual spaces and buy some the corresponding NFTs. But yeah, then they kind of drop the idea. Maybe at the next cohort, it will be more about the metaverse.
Yeah, Diane, thank you. As soon as you've mentioned next cohort, so let's follow your way of thinking and focus. I mean, let's focus on the future and pretend ourselves as predictors, because I know that you're a good predictor. So how do you see the next trends or use cases of museums in Web3? So what will be next?
That's a super good question. Yeah, definitely more DAOs. And we were already saying it last year. This year will be the year of DAO, of DAOs, but actually some technical difficulties made it not so smooth. I think, yeah, community building, community engagement, and participation through DAOs are definitely how you can rethink the way a model is governed, or a museum is governed, or a museum is setting up exhibitions, or managing collections. So definitely giving more power to people, to visitors, communities, or different players is one of the next steps. Some museums are totally ready, and some are actually currently working on setting up the DAOs. But it's, again, you need to be quite bold to be able to do that if you really want to embrace the full potential of what is a DAO and what a DAO could do. We are actually having next week our week dedicated to DAOs, with Refraction DAO, with Unicorn DAO, and different players actually coming and explaining how they are managing it. And what I really like with Unicorn DAO, for instance, is that they really, to my mind, it's like this decentralized, community-led and community-based new charity model, kind of, meaning that you actually support purpose-driven projects and artists, And this new model of charity, and new model of donating, how you can care by donating art or creating art is something which is really interesting for me. One of the projects that I really liked in the past, since the beginning of this year, is Cure 3. So it was a collaboration with Bonham's Auction House and FXH, supported by Right-Click Save and Foteini Valenti, sorry. But basically, they curated, they selected 4 artists who actually donated, put for sale some NFTs on FXH. So it was generative art, and they could gather a huge amount of money, which was donated directly to an association. So it was actually to fight Parkinson. But what is beautiful with this model is that they actually unlocked this perpetual donation model, meaning that this association, because of the secondary market and the royalties, this association will actually receive donations on a daily basis. It's not a one-off, it's a perpetual donation. And I think there you really have something beautiful that museums could really play with.
Thank you, Diane. I've got a small addition to this question. Like, I just remember how in 2010, when Amit Sood introduced, or better say, started introducing Google Art Project, only 17 museums agreed to participate in that because they thought that the attendance of the real visitors would decrease because everyone will see their collections online. But since, let's say, after several, even after a year, the museums who participated in that, in the first bunch of the online museums through Google Art Project, they realized that their audience increased, and people even, they wanted to see those museums right after visiting the websites, in order to create that sanctuary experience. So to see something brick and mortar after virtual, and after that. So soon after that, there was a queue, the line of more than 500 museums towards Google Art Project the next year, who understood they were wrong. So I'd like you to comment on the conservative position of many museums, and how the things in your opinion have changed, let's say 10 years and now. Because nowadays, when we, the art community, the crypto community, we propose some new approach to the museums, they might react the same or not. So has the conservative position changed, in your opinion, towards adoption new technologies, and how to struggle with that?
Well, I totally remember when the Chateau de Versailles put their first video on YouTube, and this was super bold. And then everyone was starting to question it, and then everyone did it. I remember also when the Ministry of Culture, we had the first Facebook page. This was totally forbidden, but then a few months after, everyone was doing it. So I remember the digital transformation, like in 2010, was harsh. Definitely, if you were a fighter for digital technology, you were actually facing a lot of walls. But then step by step, some museums totally embraced it, and we actually remember the ones who dare the most, and the first ones really well. And I think it's what's happening also in Web3. The first ones who actually dare to experiment and to say, okay, I want to test it, I want to do it. They are learning. Of course, it's dangerous, but they are learning so much. And in Web3, there is 2 things. You need to do your own research. You need to learn by yourself. That's why learning and knowledge is huge, is very key and valuable. But then you need to experiment. You need to do it by yourself, because you will not be able to find a template that you can just adapt to your museum, or model, which could actually work for everything, exactly like, you know, the virtual visits of Google Art and Culture. You need to test, you need to do things. And I think, yeah, definitely, you know, it's been now 15 years and museums, they're there way more than before. But I will also say that it's not for everyone. It's not for every museum, and far from it. You know, even if you were saying that 500 wanted to be on this list and be actually part of this virtual museum world, a lot of them didn't want to, and they will never want to, because they don't need to, because their community, their visitors, their mission, because of so many different reasons, they don't have to. So of course, I think digital transformation and now Web3, it's a long journey, but you don't have to do it if it's, you know, outside of your scope or outside of your mission. I know some museums are totally fine having their small community and small numbers of visitors, but visitors who are actually feeling a strong impact each time they are visiting the museum. So yeah, more and more there, more and more feel empowered also by the others, by the first ones, the one who dare the best, the most. But some of them will still not do it, and I think it's totally fine.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember a very interesting saying from the 2010 Vienna Communicating the Museum conference. Someone said, yeah, you don't, probably it was Damian Whitmer. Yeah, he was a great joker, and he still is. So he said, like, you don't need a Twitter for your museum if you still have a spider web in your corner, because the only result you'll achieve is the photo of your spider web on your account made by your visitors. So first prepare your corners and then implement technologies.
Dennis, I think we have another comment, another question from the audience.
Yes, and
You're
I believe this is Erwin from the Stack Report, the analytic platform behind Tezos.
Yes, so the question is, initially it seems that the willingness to experiment with the Web3 is mainly driven by artists. How would you describe interest in Web3 from other museum stakeholders such as visitors, trustees, and curators?
Well, they all look for something different, so it's difficult to answer with one answer. But yeah, definitely artists, they are leading when it comes to experimenting with the tech itself. So we have this beautiful movement going towards more generative art lately, because artists really are driving this movement. But then when you look at museums, what I've been talking about is far from being interesting actually for art, by being interesting for artists. I've been talking about community engagement, community building, live minting, NFT giveaways. I've been talking about permanent donation and perpetual donations. This is here, and especially with the WAC program, we are trying to identify new ways. So it's not about minting, it's not about experimenting with blockchain as a medium, or but really about finding other things. And maybe it's not about NFTs, because we kept talking about NFTs, but blockchain tech, you know, you can find so many other ways of using blockchain technologies. So I think that's what museums are also trying to do, trying to find their own thing. Definitely artists, they are really good with NFTs and experimenting with on-chain art as well. But yeah, museums, they can do something else. And let me check the question. Visitors,
curators, and visitors.
Visitors, I think definitely it's like the live minting is something interesting, and visitors, yeah, as I said, they can actually have a stronger say. They can start to have a say in what the museum will do, collect, or exhibit. So it's more engagement, definitely. more community building and curators. So the word curator is quite a tricky one lately, because coming from the museum scene, a curator is quite different from what you actually see in the Web3 scene. And that's still a big struggle that we have. Yeah, it depends. Curators actually in the Web3 scene are becoming agents as well, exactly like galleries. But curators are also becoming, they can also become art dealers. So it's the role and the scope of work of a curator totally changed and evolved in this Web3 space. So it's yeah, difficult to actually answer a question about curator without knowing exactly what you mean by that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Actually, yeah, we had an intention to ask you the last question about the future inspiring projects between VR museums and the Tezos blockchain or Tezos community. But throughout our discussion, you've mentioned several of them. Maybe there are still some left that you would like to share with us, with the audience.
Yeah, Cure 3 with FXH is definitely a beautiful purpose-driven project. Unicorn DAO is also very inspiring when it comes to purpose and impact. And yeah, I think I will leave it here because that's the best example that we are working that we have that the Tezos community actually can interact with lately.
Thank you. Sonia?
Thank you. I actually think that's it, what we have for today. Thank you so much. I mean, I think we had a great engagement with our audience today. We had a bunch of interesting questions. And I feel like we touched upon many different topics, starting from like where museums, like Taz community, and like I feel like in general we talked a lot about museums and Web3. So thank you again, Dan, for being here today with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Have a beautiful accelerator.
Thank you. So wishing you and the WAC students success. So as the museums, as I said, the museum community is very strong, one of the strongest communities I've ever seen, probably as strong as the Tezos art community only. And the
I hope so.
Sure. Thank you again, and thanks everyone who has been watching us. So see you in a week with another beautiful speaker from the art tech ecosystem.
Absolutely. See you everyone in 1 week. Thank you.